polynomial. Unit 5 polynomials. 5a is add, subtract, and multiply polynomials. Example 1. Write the polynomial in standard form, then classify it by degree and by number of terms. So to do that, you have to write it from the biggest degree, which is the biggest exponent, to the smallest, each term. So we have f of x equals, it's a positive 2p to the third, and then it's a minus, it's a negative, but we're going to move that to make it minus, and then plus 6p plus 2. The biggest exponent here is 3. That is our degree. It's a degree 3, and the name of this is going to be cubic. There are 4 terms here. There's no special name for 4-term polynomial, just 4 terms. If it was a 3-term polynomial, it would be a trinomial. If it's a 2-term polynomial, it would be a binomial. If it's a 1-term polynomial, it would be a monomial. So let's move on. We're going to be adding these 2 polynomials together. What you do when you're adding, you have to have like bases and exponents. So like variables and exponents. So I see I have positive 6 out of the 4th, and we're adding another 6 out of the 4th. That's going to give us 12 out of the 4th. Sorry, I'm trying to write with a tablet now. 12 out of the 4th. Promise I'm going to get better. We have negative 2 out of the 3rd, and we're adding 8r to the 3rd, which ends up being positive 6 out of the 3rd. And then last but not least, we have 5, and don't forget we're adding 1, which is 6. So this is 12 out of the 4th plus 6 out of the 3rd plus 6. This is also a trinomial, and it is to the 4th, which is a quartic. Q-U-A-R-T-I-C. Quartic polynomial. Moving on. Simplifying with subtraction. So if you notice, we have subtraction in the middle here. So what I would do with subtraction is I'm actually going to distribute this subtraction first. So I'm going to distribute the subtraction to each term. What that's going to do, each term to the right. What that's going to do is it's going to actually make it each term switch to negatives or opposites, and then what we do in the middle here is just going to have a plus. It's going to become plus here. So it would be 8x to the 3rd minus 6x to the 4th plus 2x squared. You can keep it in parentheses if you like, but once you distribute in that negative or a subtraction, it really just becomes a plus. So you really don't need the parentheses, but it doesn't hurt. Minus 8x to the 3rd minus 5x to the 4th. Let's gather our like terms. I have negative 6x to the 4th, and I am adding negative 5x to the 4th, which becomes negative 11x to the 4th. And then I have 8x to the 3rd, and I'm adding negative 8x to the 3rd. That's 0x to the 3rd, which is just 0. So those will actually cancel out. Then we have 2x squared plus negative 5x squared, which is a negative 3x squared. So this is it. This is a binomial, and it is to the 4th power, the biggest x degree, and this has 4th power, that's also a quartic. Moving on, multiplying. When you multiply polynomials, it's going to be very similar. We've done similar problems like this before. We have a trinomial here, a quadratic polynomial, the trinomial times a binomial. I think the easiest way to do this is with Punnett square. So Punnett square, we have a trinomial, so I'm going to make 3 rows, and a binomial, so I'm going to make 2 columns. So 7n squared, negative 3n, and 7. I'm going to put that on the columns or rows because that's where the trinomial would fit. And there's 2 columns, so that's where the binomial would go. Now we're just going to multiply it out like you would a Punnett square, so 7n squared plus or times 2n is 14n to the third, and then negative 3n times 2n is a negative 6n squared. 7n times 2n is 14n, and 2 times 7n squared is 14n squared. Negative 3n times 2 is a negative 6n, and 7 times 2 is 14. If you do this right, you should have, most of the time, there'll be like terms diagonal here, which just makes it really nice. The leading term, 14n to the third, should always be in the top left. So 14n to the third. And then we have 14n squared plus negative 6n squared is a positive 8n squared. And then 14n plus negative 6n is another 8n. And then plus 14. Terrible circle job, but that's it. You could also multiply it out. If you didn't like Punnett square, you can multiply all of the terms, so it's triple distribution. You could have done that way also, and you'll get the same answer. Last problem of the day is a monomial times a binomial times a binomial times a binomial. Looks terrible. Not that bad. So what I end up doing when I have 4 polynomials multiplied together, I take the first 2 and multiply those together first. So x times x, x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. Put parentheses around that. And then I take the last 2 polynomials and multiply those out together. You can do this with a Punnett square if you want. Up to you. X squared times 2x squared is 2x to the 4th. X squared times negative 1 is negative x squared. 3 times 2x is 6x squared. And 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. So put this down. We have, or combine your like terms, 2x to the 4th plus 5x. That's not a 5. I hear you guys probably laughing at me. 5x squared, and then minus 3. Why are my 3's so weird? Alright, so we have a binomial now times a trinomial. So if you want to multiply this out with a Punnett square, go ahead. Hopefully your Punnett square looks a little better than this, but it doesn't have to. So I need 1 column. You could have 3 columns, and you could have 2 rows if you'd like. Does not really matter. So 2x to the 4th and 5x squared and negative 3. And now up here we have x squared and negative 2x. So 5x to the 4th times x to the squared, or 2x to the 4th, sorry, times x squared is 2x to the 6th. 2x to the 4th times negative 2x is negative 4x to the 5th. 5x squared times x squared is 5x to the 4th. 5x squared times negative 2x is negative 10x to the 3rd. 3x times x squared, or negative 3 times x squared is negative 3x squared. Negative 3 times negative 2x is positive 6x. Gathering your like terms if you have any. Does not look like does not look like I have any like terms. So my final answer, starting at the top left, biggest exponent 2x to the 6th minus 4x to the 5th. It's a positive 5, so plus 5x to the 4th. Subtracting 10x to the 3rd. Subtract 3x squared and then it's a positive 6 on the 6x, so positive 6x. And this is your final answer. Come to class with any questions, and hopefully I can answer them. Thank you.